What's up, y'all? My name's Leticia, and you're listening to Confessions from the Closet, a podcast all about vulnerability and overcoming. It's time we get ourselves unstuck from these boxes and these closets that we've allowed ourselves to be trapped in. We're so much bigger than these boxes we've been in. It's time we go deep, y'all. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another week of Confessions from the Closet. It's been a while. It's been a long while. I needed a break.
Yeah, it's good to take a break.
Yeah, need rest. I'm really excited about today. I've talked about this person a lot on episodes and our friendship and story, and they are finally here to share the other side of the story. Anyways, today we have my best friend, Kathryn.
Hi.
Worship leader at our church. A voice that is amazing.
Thanks.
Yeah. Someone who helped me learn how to sing properly. Anyways, my friend Kathryn. Thanks for coming.
Yay. I'm excited. It's been a long time overdue.
Yeah.
You've been asking me for since you started the podcast.
A year ago. It's been like a year since I started. I wasn't ready.
And a lot has happened in a year.
So much has happened.
So we don't need to go there yet.
No, let's wait. Anyways. Yeah. We'll get there.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can just start by talking about how we met.
Yeah.
Does that sound good?
Yeah, sounds good.
Some people know I started going to our church, which is called More, almost exactly 6 years ago, like a month shy of 6 years. When my nephew got dedicated, my sister and brother-in-law were already going there. And the first time I went, Kathryn was a really big reason why we stayed. We went and we got there during worship, and I heard Kathryn singing, and I'm going to embarrass you a little bit.
I don't even know if I know this.
Yeah, I heard Kathryn singing. I had been needing to go to church for a while. I told Maddie, I was like, I either need to find church friends or I need to get on antidepressants because I'm not going to survive this season. Mm. It was like that place. And so we walk into More. I was so nervous, which I was thinking about this morning. Like, walking into a church is really scary as an LGBT person because of the trauma that's happened over the years. But we walk in, Kathryn's singing. Eventually they get to Good, Good Father. And it felt like they were stuck on this bridge for like 10 minutes. Which, now being on the worship team for so many years, I know we were not stuck on a bridge for 10 minutes.
Not 10 minutes, but...
Yeah. It was probably sung 3 times, but to me it felt like 100.
Sung directly to you.
It was. It was like an out-of-body experience because I was like thinking about it. And when I think back on that moment, it felt like a long conversation with God where he's like, are you listening? I'm a good, good father. It's who I am. And you're loved by me. That's who you are. You need to remember who you are.
Yeah.
But for me, it was like out of body. Now knowing that we usually sing a bridge 3 times, maybe 4, I know it was not as much. So it was totally a moment. Yeah. But Kathryn had this voice and this gift. I say has. That
I used to. Not anymore.
Yeah, not anymore. She's not good anymore. No. That just, if you've been around her singing, you'd understand. But yeah,
Thanks, friend.
Yeah, you sang that song, and that was like, okay, I'm supposed to be here. Mm. Yeah, and then...
That's what happens when the Lord speaks to you.
Yeah.
It's like...
More is very full of that. Yeah. Anyways, I don't know that we actually met that day. I thought you waved at me, but you could have totally been waving at my sister.
I mean, I might have waved at y'all.
It felt like you looked right at us and waved. I'm like, oh my God, she sees us.
I probably, honestly, thinking back, I mean, I probably was waving at Veronica and smiling at her, but I think definitely was trying to direct attention to y'all too, because I knew that you were obviously family or somebody I had never met. And that's one thing about More is that, I mean, I've gone to churches where literally no one will talk to me or look at me or say hi. I mean, it's not like they're being rude, really. It's just that they're in their own zone. And I know how that is too, because I know that there's been plenty of Sundays where I'm in the zone. I'm walking through, I really try to be intentional to make people feel welcome, because I'm always glad that everyone's there, obviously.
You're really good at that.
I try.
I've watched you for...
I mean, I love people. I genuinely, like, love people, and I love to see new people. So I probably was waving at Veronica, but I was definitely wanting to, like, hi, I don't know you, but hi.
Yeah.
So that's funny.
No, you're really... I was, like, thinking about that. I was like, I give you a hard time about it all the time. You're so nice to everyone. I'm like, how do you do that? Like, I want to stay, like, in my little... I'm shy and I'm overwhelmed, but you do go above and beyond to make people feel seen and welcome.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're good at it.
Thanks.
I'm glad one of us is good at that in this friendship. But then I don't know that we met. I don't think we did. So. I probably ran out of there as fast as I could. I was so overwhelmed. I think I met Chantel. No, Madi met Chantel that day, but I don't really think I talked to anyone.
Yeah, the time that I remember meeting you, and I don't even remember why you went with Jared. You came to practice with Jared.
I think I had already talked to Jennifer about doing worship.
So had I already met you? Because I think I maybe I had shaken hands with you and I knew your name, so I must have met you. I just don't remember the first time I ever.
Yeah,
do you
remember
the first time?
Remember the first
time.
Yeah. I cannot remember the first time we actually met. But I do know that I had already talked to Jennifer about being on the team.
Yes.
And Jennifer had talked to Daryl, who talked to you.
Yes. Yes.
And so that's why I went to practice, because usually people who come,
they're
and want to be on the team, they come to practice at least once to check it out.
Yeah.
So that was the first time I remembered talking.
Mm-hmm.
And probably, I think we set up a time to hang out around that day, that night.
Maybe, yeah.
But anyways, the day I know we got to know each other was...
I remember that day.
Yeah. I really hadn't gotten to know anyone yet. I kind of hadn't talked with Jen. Messaged more than talk. I seem to be more brave in messages in the beginning of a friendship. But then we set up a time to hang out. And for me it was mainly supposed to be for me to sing so you could hear my voice and get to know each other. Yeah.
It's kind of like an audition process without being like an audition. Like, hey, sing for me. Okay, check. You know, like we don't have that kind of a formal audition process. So we're just like, hey, come hang out and jam with us or sing with me or, you know, something like that. Yeah.
I don't even remember what I sang, but I sang. We hung out in your office, and that day was amazing for me because it was like the first time I got to really share my story with someone who was not just in a church, but like you had leadership in a church. And I'd shared a little with Jen, but with you, like we hung out for like 6+ hours.
Yeah.
It turned into a really awesome day.
It was so great. Like it was just immediately like you and I have always like just clicked friendship wise. Like I feel like we are kindred spirits. I feel like, you know, just our personalities mesh well. And we like to be vulnerable and just like talk about real stuff. And we definitely did. It was just like, you were really brave to do that. Because I was kind of like treading lightly. I was like, you know, I mean, whatever. I was just like, you want to come sing and we can talk. But it just kind of turned into like you giving me like your whole story. And I was like, wow, like she's being really open and vulnerable, which I love. And I love to be that with people as well. And so it just made me, I don't know, love you more.
Yeah, that's probably why we clicked, because I dove right in. And I remember we were talking the other day about how I told you the moment that God was like, I made you gay. I did this for a reason, so you could be a voice between the church and the LGBTQ community. You could be a bridge, which still like saying that out loud to someone for the first time who wasn't like my wife or my mom, you know, was weird because I really didn't talk about it to very many people up to that point. So I know that you really didn't have any friends like me or like Madi up to this point in your life. There were 2 guys that went to church, but like
There were 2 guys that went to church that were gay that I knew and loved so much, but like wasn't, didn't like live life with them. I had, friends growing up. I had one friend that was gay growing up that he was always kind of out, and then, I can't remember when he officially came out, but, he was part of my friend group. He was one of my best friends when I was like elementary, middle school. But he was really more my best friend's best friend, like they like were brother and sister, still are to this day. So, Orion, I've always loved him. But I've never like talked about that. Like Orion and I never talked about that. The other guys at the church, like I never really had that kind of conversation about it. So no, I don't think I definitely had never had friends that like, were already gay, already married, like, and then we became friends, like in that, I had friends that, were gay, but nobody knew it. And then they came out, like those things happened. But, yeah, so it was definitely a new experience, talking to you and just being like, just asking you, letting me ask the questions that I was curious about, like about your life, because it's just different than mine. And, I was thankful for that.
Yeah.
It's kind of changed my life, truly, like very, very much.
Yeah. One of the main reasons I wanted to have you on, besides the fact that I love you and I think you're awesome, is I know we've gotten a lot of mine and Mari's perspective on the podcast, but I always think about the people who are going through, like you're a leader. The beginning of our friendship was also about me, openly gay, becoming someone on the worship team. And so I think, I will never have a straight person's perspective on that process. And that was something that had not been done. Rafa led prayer, and I know that had stirred some things, but we also knew me being given a microphone to sing was going to be like this new thing. And I think we were really careful. But can you walk us through that process and how that was on your side?
Oh, well, whenever I first even knew that you wanted to sing, Daryl had called me, Jennifer told Daryl that you wanted to sing. And Daryl called me and he was like, hey, Veronica's sister, Leticia, wants to sing. And, I can't even remember really what he said. Like, he was like, I think he asked me, he's like, so are you willing to like, mentor her kind of? And I was like, yeah. I was like, that's totally fine. And I mean, I pretty much was like asking Daryl, like, I'm like, well, if you're fine with it, I'm fine with it. Like, I mean, it's kind of like one of those things that has never come up. It's not, like, it's not that it never would have been done. It's just that it never come up yet.
Yeah.
So, he was like, no, I want you to mentor her. And, he's like, I don't know if she can sing, like, see if she can sing. And I'm like, okay. So then that happened. So, I mean, I don't know, just like how he was with it, like immediately set the tone for how I was going to be with it. And like I said, like it didn't bother me. I honestly didn't think about all of the religious things that would come up eventually, like they did. Like I didn't ultimately think about that. All I was thinking about was, you're a person, you want to sing, you want to feel loved, you want a place. Like I had been there. Yeah. I had nowhere to sing. I wanted somewhere to sing. I had wanted community and friendship. I didn't have that. And more was that place for me. So I was like, well, duh. Like, I mean, it was no big deal for me. But then, meeting with you that day was awesome. And at the same time, so challenging. Like, then, I know we talked about this just a second ago, like you saying, whenever you told me, like, God told me that I was gay and that he made me this way to be a bridge. And that was the first time I'd felt like this offense, like rise up in me. Like I was like, whoa, like that's weird, because that's normally like the way I feel about things. But I was kind of like this, like, oh my gosh, she just said that. Like, and it was funny, because at first, you know, you'd think like, oh, that's the Holy Spirit talking to me. But what was so interesting about that moment was that I actually felt that way, this offense rise up in me, and then I felt the Holy Spirit, and I know him very well too, and he I felt this like push on my heart, and he said, listen to her. He didn't say, you know, he didn't like say, oh yeah, she's completely right, I totally told her that, and like all the things. Like he didn't go there with me. All he needed to tell me was calm down and listen to her. Shh. You know, and I'm like, oh, like I felt immediate peace, and I knew, I was like, okay, so where is that offense coming from? I mean, I was having this whole conversation in my head while you were like spilling your heart out, and I was like, it was such an interesting, it was a really beautiful moment for me, and it was a life-changing moment for me, because after I settled down and listened, I was able to think about a lot of things. And I remember telling you that day, like, about being, like, trying to be put in your shoes, and, like, think about, like, how, I don't know, like, how it would feel, like, you know, if the world was completely different, and girls were supposed to be with girls, and boys were supposed to be with boys, and it was actually, like, you know, in the religious community, a sin to be with the opposite sex. Like, if that was the case, and I had felt the way I'd felt my whole life, like, I had been so boy crazy, like, my whole life, I just remember, like, having those kinds of things come up in my brain of, like, I've never thought about this. I've never put myself in her shoes. Like, so, I don't know. It was such an interesting day. It was a beautiful day. And then you and I mean, honestly, we were just really close friends after that.
Yeah.
We met like once a week to sing, and we sang, and we talked, and we hung out, and it was great. And you, like I said, you were so open to me asking questions. Like, I had so many questions, and I would ask them, and nothing really happened at church at first, because I mean, like, y'all were coming to church. And, you know, maybe people, like, some people knew that y'all were married, but, like, a lot of people just, like, assumed probably that you were sisters or cousins. Or, I know, I'm sure there's still people. I mean, you know. And, yeah, because y'all don't really fit, like, the typical, like, you know, the roles of...
the cliche.
Yeah, the cliche, which is, like, you know, it's fine when people do. It's just y'all don't. So I think that's why it's not, like, as obvious. But, I remember this one Sunday, you getting a prophetic word from somebody, and you and I were standing together, and nobody knew that for, like, I mean, it had been like 5 months, like every week we were singing together, like practicing in my office, and just, like, you know, doing vocal lessons pretty much. And it was for the purpose of you singing on a Sunday, but we were being careful. We were being, you know, I don't even know how to say what it is. We were just being cautious, like, of the timing. And we were talking about it. Like, even I'm pretty sure the elders, you know, were talking about it. And the staff, we were all talking about it. And just, like, letting everyone know, like, this is something that we're going to do. And it hasn't been done before, and that's why we were treading lightly. It was not because we thought any way of you. It was just this, we knew it would be a big deal. And but I remember you getting this prophetic word, and she walked up to us, and she was like, hey, I don't know if you sing or not. And I was like... like, nobody knows, but she does. Yeah, she does. You know, it's so hilarious. And you're like, yeah, I do. And she was like, like, the Lord told me today that he just loves your worship. Like, he loves when you worship him. And I was like, wow, this is so cool, God, you know, because like, I just think as a Christian in the Bible Belt, growing up my whole life in church, you know, like, you hear what you hear about, you know, gay people, and you're like, oh, this is a sin, and God is like so mad and so blah, 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 all these things. And it's just like, he was proving that wrong to me. And that whole time, it was just like these things that were, I don't know, it was just so odd. Like, something that I thought wouldn't be allowed, you know, was happening, and I was kind of in the middle of it, and I was like, wow, okay, I just seeing this unfold. So I thought it was really cool that happened. And then like a month maybe later, I mean, I think we met for 6 or 7 months before you sang on a Sunday, and you sang on that Sunday. And I remember that Sunday, like, I was aware that it was probably going to be different for some people, especially, you know, I mean, probably a lot of people didn't even know, like still, you know, just kind of were oblivious. But then some people were very, you know, aware of it. And it was an awesome Sunday. I remember really like feeling the Holy Spirit move in worship, and just all these things. Like, it feels dumb now because, you know, like, and feels kind of like I'm embarrassed to even admit the thoughts that were going in my mind. But like, you wonder, like, oh, well, you know, because all the things that the religious people would say, or like all these things that you grow up hearing, like, okay, well, the Holy Spirit's not going to be able to move if a gay person's on stage. Yeah. You know, like, well, that's kind of bullshit. But I mean, now, you know, but like, those are the things that you kind of like, or, you know, thinking. And that's why I was paying attention to all that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like the Holy Spirit's moving just as much as he's always moved in this place. Like, nothing is different, nothing, you know. And I was like, okay, Lord, like, that's why I've been so curious. Like, God, what do you think? And, I just feel like he made it very obvious he feels the exact same way. I mean, this is dumb to say out loud too, but he feels the exact same way about you as he does about me, as he does about every person ever. Yeah. Like, he loves all of us. We are all his children. Like, he loves us, you know, and he's after our hearts. So anyways, but after you sang, that's when it was hard as a leader. And there was definitely some things that there was some things that you obviously were going to see. You didn't hear all of it. You didn't see all of it. That time was hard because of the friends that left. The people that left the church because of it, and what they said, like the things that they would say that was happening in the church because of it, and just all these things. And I was just like, oh, like, this really sucks, you know, things that, and people that you don't expect to feel a certain way. But then there was also people that felt offended by it, that have stayed around, and that have totally, their hearts have changed. And so, you know, that was beautiful too, to see just everything about it. It was hard. It was beautiful. It was life-changing. It was all of these things. And the one thing that I knew, that Daryl knew, that the leadership knew, like, we all knew we were doing what we were supposed to be doing. Like, because we have always done everything through relationship, and we have always, we have made it a commitment to always do the very best we can with the people that God brings through our doors. We're not trying to like pick people out like from outside of our walls. Like, literally, like, God brings you in, and we're just going to do our best. We're going to love our best. We're going to help you get to where you want to be, like, the best we can. And so I don't know. That whole process was challenging. Yeah. And and it's still, I mean, it's been challenging. It's been challenging in other areas of being a leader, being a worship leader, knowing other worship leaders from other backgrounds and other churches and other states and countries, and talking that through, because it's offensive to a lot of people. And that sucks to me, because of course you want to be right. And I'm like, well, it might not be right for you or your church, but I do know that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. So I can't speak for everyone. I don't know.
I mean, just listening to you, like, and remembering, because when we were in it and people were leaving, like, my feelings were hurt, because I'm like, dang, like, that still is a real thing, even though I was so accepted and loved. And one thing Daryl always did was, if someone came up and talked to me, he always made sure someone was next to me. Like, in leadership, usually it was Mike. He always made sure someone was there in case someone said something offensive to me, to make sure I was safe and protected. He always, especially in the beginning, eventually, like, it didn't need to happen, but he always had someone there protecting me. But I remember now, like, listening to you retell it, like, part of what makes your friendship so special to me is I lost so many friends when I came out, but you lost so many friends when the church came out as accepting towards me, and as we're going to put her where God's called us to put her, and following that. And we knew, I mean, me and Daryl sat down and talked about this a lot, and I had to put myself in the church's shoes and knowing what y'all were risking losing. And he taught me patience. Like, it didn't have to like flip the switch overnight, because this was something that had been ingrained in all of us, myself included, for 100 years. Which it was only 100 years. It didn't get put in the Bible until 1946, which I'm always talking about. But that's our whole generation. That's our parents. That's all of this. And
yeah, I mean, it's ingrained in
it's
who we are, what we know.
Everyone we know.
Yeah, especially if you've grown up in church,
Yeah, and so I had to do that too. But like you went through that same loss in a way when the people were leaving. And I do remember that time, like, but just hearing it again, I'm like, man, you did have to go through that. And that's something that I always try to say on the podcast is, like, as an LGBTQ person, we have to remember that our people who are loving us, our allies, are also having to come out in certain ways. And you even, like, talking about, like, not everyone knows this, but, like, you have this, God is using you in these amazing ways and letting you be with different worship leaders from all over the place, and recording with them and songwriting with them. And I'm glad he's not taking you away from us, because we love having you in Amarillo, but I know you have the potential and the gift to be somewhere else, on bigger stages. But you're having to come out again, because our church has done something different that is totally outside of the norm. And that's something that Moore has always, since I've been at Moore, been about, not just for us, but for different communities that are outcasts. Like, we're a church where it's come as you are, not as you should be. Like, we don't want you to fit a mold. We want you to just be uniquely who you are, because that's where your gifts are going to shine the most. And that, just listening to you talk, I was like, man, like, I don't think you understand. I know it's hard right now for some things that you're walking through in a new season, but I don't think you understand the amount of influence you're going to have on other churches. You're going to reach other churches that I can't reach, because you're the straight voice. Like, I hate the straight and the gay and the thing, but you are, and you have a different perspective, and you've walked this journey that is challenging, but I see the Lord moving all over the country. There's so many, like you said, like, he loves me like he loves you. He loves every LGBTQ person the same that he does the straight person. Yeah. And he was a friend to the outcasts. Yeah. And he still is. But we're in this process where we're learning to do that as humans. Like, the script is flipping. Yeah. But I don't think you realize how much influence you're going to have on other gay people who you may never even meet, but because you influenced someone who you met through worship, to love someone, to take the time to listen to their story and listen to their heartbreak and listen and put themselves in their shoes. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, how else are you supposed to do relationship? You know, like, that's really all it comes down to, is having a genuine relationship. It's not seeing you at church on Sunday, like, hey, you know. It's living life.
Yeah.
It's going through hard things and talking about hard things. And even, you know, like, I'm sure that there were some questions or some things that I have said. I know that there has been over the years, you know, not knowing what I was even saying, or things that probably hurt your feelings, or things like, I don't know. I mean, I always thought like, oh, I wonder if I'm going to like hurt her by asking this question, or, you know, whatever. But it's important to have that kind of friendship. Like, for you to actually be able to speak into a life of someone, like, you have to have that kind of friendship. You can't just go to someone and speak into their life because you think you know better.
Yeah.
And I think that's important, like, for just the whole journey. Like, if there was a church that has been facing, you know, like the same thing, like, of having, you know, I don't know, like, of never having gay people on their team, and then, you know, okay, now there's this opportunity, like, how do we do that? You know, I would just say, like, be in relationship, like,
yeah,
break bread together,
as
you
Daryl
know,
always
drink
said.
wine together, like, have relationship, talk about the things, talk about all the things, you know, because that's what's going to change your perspective. And I feel like in those times, like, that's where the Holy Spirit has really, like, molded me so much. And I don't know. It's just, I don't know. That's what I would say.
Yeah. Well, that's something I always talk about. I've talked about a lot on the podcast, is if there's someone that you don't understand, or you might even take offense to their type of life, Daryl would always say, invite them over for dinner and break bread and drink wine and get to know them. Yeah. And I haven't mentioned it, but Daryl was also Kathryn's father-in-law. And it's crazy that he was, like, the one that called you, and, you know, and, like, he's always going to live in this story. But it's always a thing. It's like, not only did we meet together and sing, but, like, I didn't mean to do that already. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Me and Madi had you over for dinner. Trey was traveling. When we first met, Trey was still traveling for work. And so we had you over for dinner, and I remember you brought, like, flowers for Maya. And I think I made you salmon the first time
I make that salmon all the time because of
like
you.
Band dinner, we always have the salmon. But then Trey was in town, and we got to have dinner together, and me and you, like, we hit it off so well that we were really nervous about how it was going to be, because, you know, Madi's a girl, but Trey and Madi were, like,
they totally
besties
hit it off.
right away.
It. Yeah.
And so we were so excited, but it wasn't just me and Kathryn. It was like, we got to know y'all, and y'all's marriage, I think, helped me. I know helped me in my marriage, because I didn't have... we have, like, one friend who's, like, our... locally anyways, that's, like, the boys. They're married, Tina and Matt.
Yeah.
But, like, we needed more friendships that were, like, marriages that were healthy. And, like, I heard you saying yesterday, like, Daryl would always say, like, arguing is one of the most intimate things in a marriage. And I've always thought about that. Like, I grew up thinking my parents broke up because they fought and they argued, but it's like, how are you arguing?
Yeah, are you doing
Are you hearing each other? Are
Yeah.
you taking that into consideration? So I always think about that, like, but watching you and watching Matt and Amber and all these, and Daryl and Wendy and all these amazing marriages, Camelia and Troy, Katrina and Vincent, like, there were just so many giants that got put in our lives. And for me, most of my friends are straight, but, like, I don't want it to, like, my end goal and what the deep desire of my heart is that it's not this, oh, they're the gay couple and they're the straight couple. We're just people. We're just human, which is what I think it was always intended to be.
Yeah.
But there's these lines have been drawn in the sand that were never meant to be there. These boxes. God has been put in a box. what Christianity should be has been put in a box, and Moore has done such a good job of breaking those boxes and erasing the lines in the sand and being like, just come, let's just do a relationship.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like come and do relationship with each other. Yes, like that's like vital. But come and build a relationship with God. Like build a like letting people come and not feel like they can't step closer because of they have to get their act together.
Yeah.
Like because you are judging them and you are thinking that they're doing something wrong. And so, you know, like putting that barrier, because I think that just in general growing up, like you feel like, oh, if you have done something wrong, like whether it's hidden or whether it's exposed, you can't go to God. You have to, you know, clean yourself up first.
Yeah.
And that's the important thing, I think, that, you know, I think churches are doing a better job of it now. Like, just allowing people, like, Jesus died for you.
Yeah.
And everything that you've ever done and ever will do. And, like, you need to come to him like a child. Like, you need to come to him and have a relationship, build a relationship with Jesus, and let him figure it out. Like, y'all figure out your life. Like, God's the only one that can help you figure out your life. You know, at least, like, I don't know, the deepest things that maybe you don't even know about. Like, it's not another person's job. And, I don't know. It's our job to love one another. It's our job to bring, and as a church, it's our job to bring people, break down the barriers between them and God. Yeah. You know? Yeah. And that's what I think that's what Moore tries to do, is just show people Jesus, because Jesus changes our lives.
Yeah. No, and y'all have done a good job. And now I'm part of it, but...
Yeah. I feel like Moore is different, though, like, as far as churches, like, because I feel like right now there's even a line in the sand of accepting or not accepting. It's like, oh, you have to be, like, you know, I mean, I guess it would just say, like, is that
inclusive?
Inclusive or is that what
no, it's not
it's
inclusive.
Called something else.
Affirming?
Okay, affirming. Yes, it's like you have to be affirming or non-affirming. And that's been interesting too, because I feel like Moore is not a complete
We haven't said that, and Daryl never wanted to say that. Yeah. Because he didn't want it to be about that. And it took me by offense. Like, me and Daryl had some deep conversations, and I would get irritated with him. But we kept going, and we challenged each other. Yeah. But he didn't want it to ever be affirming. And then as he would explain it, he didn't want it to be about that. Like, he wanted it to look different. It wasn't that he didn't want us there and to have a seat at the table. That was he always wanted us to have a seat at the table. But the word affirming and the amount of pressure that's put on that, that's what it was. It was like this.
Because with that word comes all these rules that have been made and in place, like, just like non-affirming. Like, it's like, and I think that's been, as a leader, that's been interesting to explain to people. Like, well, are you affirming or not affirming? Like, well, I mean, we're affirming to people. Like, we love people and we love God. Like, it's just really interesting because people want black and white. Like, they want, like, hot or cold. Like, I don't know, like, one way or another. And it's, we kind of, I think some people are offended by that we kind of we don't say, you know, that we don't say affirming or non-affirming. Like, we're definitely not non-affirming. No. But we're not putting that affirming label on it because of all the rules and all the place that people are like, well, if you are, then blah, blah, blah. So I think it's very interesting. We're just kind of taking it one step at a time, what we've been given, you know, like, trying to do our best. And I just, like, I don't think I've ever said this to you, but, like, I'm just so thankful. Like, I'm so thankful for you and Madi, like, being patient. And, like, even when you've been hurt, like, you are so strong. Like, you are so full of integrity and just like who you are. And I don't know, your heart, you're very kind, and you just, I don't know, like, just thank you for being patient with us. Like, thank you for just doing, I don't know, it's just being a part of our family and knowing that it's messy. Like, being a family, being human is messy, and we're just all trying to do the best we can. And I just feel like without that, we wouldn't be here today. Like, without your patience, and even the, you know, like, I mean, there's so many factors to it, but I really believe, like, if you and Madi, like, were offended, and the first time you got offended, you're like, oh, I'm out of here. Like, I'm done with you. Yeah. I feel like, you know, there have been so many times that has been the case in places. And it's like, because the fear of being rejected and being hurt is so real, and can be so hurtful. So I just wanted to tell you that I'm proud of you, and I love you, and I'm just thankful that you haven't given up, that you're not going to give up. And now, I mean, it's like, we're at this point now, it's like, oh yeah, we're never giving up on each other. Like, you're never giving up on me, I'm never giving up on you. Like, I don't know, there's like a bond that comes with the patience and the things, this journey, gritty life, hard things that you go through and talk through. And that's what, like, kind of goes back to what Daryl would say about, like, arguing or confrontation or like facing the hard things, like, creates a bond. Like, it's this intimate friendship bond that you're supposed to have with people, like, as a family. And I don't know, even with God. Yeah. You know, go to God with the hard things. Like, we are made, like, God wants us to wrestle with him about things. Like, he wants us to bring the things and, like, I don't understand this, Lord. Like, why? You know? So, know.
And that's something. I think the reason we were able to be patient is when we knew it was about more than just us. Like, what we were there to do and what we're there to do still. Even the whole reason we started the podcast was, it's not just about us. It's about, we feel and have been given so many words, which is the other crazy thing about more, is we've been given words from the stage in front of everyone as a couple, not just like individually, quietly. Like, it's happened. Like, God's just like, y'all are meant to do something, y'all. And so we've always believed our marriage was supposed to help. Like, it was like the younger version of ourselves, to like make your life easier. No, you can have faith. And so when we were at more and we were struggling, like, it was hard, and you saw me cry and you saw me get mad, and it was about more than us. And there's more and more people that come that are LGBTQ. Me and Daryl were so hopeful for the day that it was just like, it was just a blend, you know, that there was more and more people, not just a handful, because we knew that day would come. So it was like, it wasn't this small picture, oh, this offended me. Like, things are going to offend me in life.
Well, Daryl didn't, you know, Daryl wanted it to be a place for literally just anyone, like, for anyone to come in and feel welcome, not just gay people, or not just people that have just gotten out of prison, or not just straight people, or not just church people, or not just people who have been rejected. I mean, literally every, like, a place for everyone to feel included and feel welcomed, and not feeling like they, their current circumstances or their past circumstances or anything affected how they could come to God. Yeah. You know? Yeah. Like, one thing, I don't know, maybe, I think I said this in like my last sermon or something, but it was Daryl. He said something about removing, like, I can't remember what it was called. It was like the road to, it was like, it's somewhere in the Bible, and it's where these people were told to go clear the road to these cities of refuge.
I don't remember.
Yeah, and he was like, it was the last staff meeting he was ever at. And we were talking about that, and he was saying like something about the cities of refuge, and in the Bible there's a place that, you know, these people that have like accidentally committed a crime, or like, you know, they were going to get killed or they were going to get punished, you know, people were after them or whatever, they could run. There was these roads to these cities of refuge where they couldn't be touched before they could be tried by a judge or like something. And it was just really interesting. And he said that something about it. And then he said, I feel like that's what my purpose in life is. He was like, to remove the, like, because in the cities of refuge, there were people in the Bible that were told to go clear the roads because the people would be running, and they like, so that the people wouldn't wouldn't trip, or like, so the people would know like that this is the road, like, you know, and that they could just run safely. And it's like removing the blockages of like what people think, like between them and God being the city of refuge and you being the person on the run trying to get to him. Daryl's like, I feel like my life's purpose is to remove
all the barriers.
Yeah. And I'm like, wow, like, I just thought that was so sweet. And then Lyndall was like, that needs to be a sermon series. And anyways, never got to be, but yeah, maybe one day somebody else will. Maybe you do it. Maybe me. You should. Maybe. Sorry, got on a bunny trail.
No, we do that sometimes. No, that was just, I do think that's the reason we didn't leave, is like we knew what we signed up for when we got married, when we saw God in each other, and that's why we got married 3 months later. Like, we knew we had a bigger purpose than just being married. And then when more was accepting, and I think when knowing that the elders had voted for me to be on the worship team, and knowing the age group they were in, which is statistically not going to be the age group that's going to vote for us. It's going to be like, because that was their generation. Knowing that, it was like, no, like, we know what we're traveling together. It's not about us. It's about being that refuge for the person who's been hurt by another church in town, or by, you know, wherever, even if now we're online, if it's a church out of town. Because there's this girl that I was talking to who's local, and I've invited them. They went to Power Church and were told they needed to respect the church and the people that go to it, and that the church felt disrespected by them being there. And I was like, first of all, what? That isn't a church. That's a religion. You know, like, that's...
They were just going? They weren't...
Yeah, they weren't like trying to sign up to sing or anything. They're just there.
Wow.
And I'm just like, I was like, totally that's not a church. You need to come to more. I was out of town when I had found out. I was like, my friend will be there. She's leading. I'll tell her you're coming. Yeah. She loves meeting new people. She really does, y'all. I'm like, Kathryn, do you have to talk to everyone?
I like it. I like meeting
She does. I just get jealous. That's the truth.
Oh my gosh.
Maddie knows it. She's like, you're just sad she's not spending time with you. I'm like, oh. I tell her that. When you're out of town, I'm like, just remember, I'm your best.
You're still my friend.
I'm your best.
My bestie. I have a lot of besties, though.
She says this, but it's fine.
She's like, really? But I'm the only one.
I'm the one. I'm the one, Kathryn.
That's funny.
What's up, y'all? Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Confessions from the Closet. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I'm so thankful that Kathryn finally got to be on this episode. And if you've been around since last year, thank you for being a loyal listener for now 1 year of Confessions from the Closet. If you like this week's episode, we will have part 2 of Kathryn next week, where we get a little bit more in depth of all the trauma that we've walked through this past year. Thank you so much again for listening this week, and we will see you next week. Thanks. Hey!
Stop! I knew you were going to do it. What if I would have settle down with me? I'll be your safety. You'll be my lady. And I was made to keep your body warm, but I'm as cold as the wind blows. So hold me in your arms. Hearts against your chest. lips pressed to my neck.